On the broadcast tonight, a date is set. Bahamar says they will open on time.
How will the country fit in with the WTO? Find out.
And Game 2 in Night League Championships in the books. We've got the highlights. The Bahamas Tonight starts now.
Now in HD. ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight. This portion of the news brought to you by BTC Everyday.
Bahamar says it will open on time. Good evening, I'm Andrew Knowles.
And good evening, Bahamas. I'm Altaviz Mannings. The more than $3 billion Bahamar Resort is now exactly 8 months away from its opening deadline. And while the resort has experienced rapid transformation, some have questioned whether the company will meet its December 2014 deadline. For the first time, we have a definitive date when the resort will open and what the strategy is to fill thousands of new hotel rooms. Clint Watson has our top story.
December 8th, 2014, Bahamar will be open.
In full. All hotels, all amenities will open in December.
Bahamar Senior Vice President Robert Sands and Chief Marketing Officer Denise Gaudreau hitting back at critics that have speculated that the resort is behind schedule and will not open on time. The senior executives admit from the outside it may appear that things have stagnated, but that's far from true.
Because there's a lot of things that they can't see with their own eyes. But there's, electricians working, there's bathrooms being put on, there's fixtures, there's amazing design details that are being completed.
And with 4 hotels opening the same time, totaling some 2,200 rooms, a strategic plan is in place to ensure those are filled as soon as possible.
An aggressive marketing plan that we're working not only internally with the Bahamar marketing team, the brand's marketing team, working with private sector organizations, the Ministry of Tourism and the various promotion boards. We are very optimistic that collectively the energies, strategies, and the marketing efforts of collectively of all of these organizations will certainly allow us to fill these beds.
Bahamas' niche market will be adult-driven, family-friendly. Mr. Sands indicated it's the exact opposite of Atlantis, so he feels both mega resorts will complement each other. A wide range of pricing and product offering will also be available at the Bahamar brand. And while Bahamar expects the bulk of its business to come from the North American market, they're also targeting new territories like Asia and Brazil. A recent meeting with the Chinese ambassador and resort officials, as well as a recent visa-free agreement between China and the Bahamas, will help to solidify this.
Why is this important? It's important because they are affluent travelers. They stay much longer than your traditional North American tourists. They spend much more than your traditional North American tourists. And they tend to visit more than one destination in the same geographical area. So it is very likely that they would visit Bahamar and then perhaps take a side trip to one of the family islands.
Also of note is that Bahamar represents only 1,500 new rooms in the destination's inventory, as the number of rooms on Cable Beach would have been taken out of operation with the partial closure of the Wyndham Nassau Resort. And speaking of the Wyndham, no one up until this point has been able to say what will happen to that resort when Bahamar opens. Well, Sands responded.
We will continue to operate Crystal Palace as we're operating here.
Will this hotel be operating while Bahamar is open?
Absolutely.
And with recruitment, a big part of ensuring that the Bahamar brand not only looks good, but offers the best in service. Officials and executives say the biggest thing about this entire phenomenon unfolding this year is putting some 5,000 Bahamians to work. Clint Watson, ZNS Network News.
One of the country's leading law firms extending its reach beyond the Bahamas as it officially opened its branch in the Turks and Caicos Islands.
Prime Minister Perry Christie was there, and as Julian Reed tells us, the Prime Minister says there needs to be closer relations between the two countries.
The list of lawyers from the firm of Graham Thompson & Co. who have given high-level public service is so long it would take seemingly eternity to name them all. But the list includes current Chief Justice Sir Michael Barnett, 3 attorneys general and cabinet ministers, and many more in many aspects of public life, including the newly designated Bahamas ambassador to the Vatican, Sean McQueenie. Prime Minister Christie said the custom began with the man who founded the law firm 64 years ago, Peter Graham, who was the Bahamas' first labor and housing minister in 1964.
Peter has always encouraged his lawyers to give back to the country, to get involved in nation building. And it didn't really matter to him which party banner you did it under, as long as you did it.
The Prime Minister said this commitment to public service is what distinguishes Graham Thompson and commended the firm for its first foray outside the Bahamas, with its official branch opening in Providenciales Wednesday night. The Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos Islands are inextricably linked. During his visit there, Mr. Christie met with the country's governor, Peter Beckingham, and Premier Dr. Rufus Ewing. They spoke about common issues, including the economy and challenges in tax reform and illegal migration.
I think the interests of the Bahamas on TCI with respect to illegal migration are one and the same. And it may well be compatible with best international relations for you on behalf of TCI with the Premier to join us in the Bahamas in talks we're having and or in the Turks and Caicos with respect to being able to arrive at an understanding with the government of Haiti that they have a stake in ensuring that we are able to protect the best interests of our respective countries.
Tax reform is another key issue for both governments as they struggle to raise revenue. Turks and Caicos Governor Peter Beckingham commented on that.
But they are both looking at, as everyone here from TCI will know in our case, looking at introducing some tax measures which haven't been, to put it gently, universally popular, but what tax measure has ever been in any country popular.
Premier Dr. Rufus Ewing welcomed the opportunity to have dialogue with the Bahamian leader on home ground and looked forward to heightened cooperation between our two countries. There really is no place that is as much like the Bahamas as the Turks and Caicos Islands. We're not only close geographically, but through our people too. As Prime Minister Christie said, we are family. And shouldn't families stick together? In Providenciales, Turks and Caicos Islands, I'm Julian Reed for ZNS Network News.
Well, the Christie administration is prioritizing the country's accession to the World Trade Organization. Statistics reveal that the Bahamas is one of few Caribbean destinations to have accomplished this goal.
The Ministry of Financial Services is taking the lead to make our presence visible on this level. Tonight, Kendino Knowles tells us about a WTO panel discussion that looks to make that a reality.
Government has been big on consultation when it comes to a number of proposed initiatives, including this country's accession to the World Trade Organization, which has been over a decade in the making. It's why Financial Services Minister Ryan Pinder facilitated a panel discussion on the issue at the Hilton Hotel last night, where members of the community got a chance to ask WTO's second-in-command, Deputy Director General David Shark, a number of questions about the WTO and what it means to this country's development.
As part of the accession process, as I understand it, the Bahamas is hard at work in developing up-to-date rules on food safety, on standards, on addressing anti-dumping measures. These are necessary to become a member of the WTO, but aren't these things that you want anyway?
It's a question Minister Pinder says yes to. And that said, he talked about other benefits of joining the WTO, including helping to build the economy by expanding our trade offerings, albeit with the inclusion of foreign competition.
We see trade as an opportunity to develop economically a third pillar, and WTO accession accomplishes that by allowing us to have access into markets on predictable and transparent terms, something that gives comfort to businesses and investors alike.
Chairman of the Trade Commission, noted accountant Philip Galanis, says while the Bahamas is open to foreign competition, once accession to the World Trade Organization is complete, Bahamians must consider how much better off the country would be with the enactment of many different types of legislation.
Intellectual property rights, for example, is one such thing. Trademarks, copyrights, branding, and so forth. Things that we would probably not take upon ourselves and would do if it were not imposed on us or required of us.
And that's where the Bahamas Chamber of Commerce is putting down the brakes. Concerned CEO Edison Sumner says while his membership welcomes the competition, the Chamber is more concerned about the terms and conditions government negotiates with its trade partners.
We know that the government has identified a number of areas that they consider to be restricted from foreign participation. We'd like to see that list expanded to include more professions, more industries in the country. We see that there are some benefits to the WTO. We see that there are also going to be some challenges with it. So the way we understand WTO to work is that you get what you negotiate.
That said, the Financial Services Minister was more than reassuring that his government will always look out for the best interest of the Bahamian people.
The evolution and the reforms that we're undertaking will actually help domestic industry compete better against foreign imported product. And it's all a part of modernizing our scheme and trading environment to do so.
Kindino Knowles, ZNS Network News.
Care for your pension? We'll tell you coming up.
And in sports, a championship on the line. Both teams pull out all of the stops. We've got the highlights. You're watching The Bahamas Tonight.
This segment of the news is brought to you by Shell Quality Fuels.